Hey guys, D Squared here, Shannon, Dan. We're going to talk about our topic for this week. I just did the thing. And it's, this is real life, this is our real life series. And this is how we started. That didn't print out 2 copies for me. Nope. Oh well. Okay. Again.
We're super prepared.
Yeah. We're going to start our videos a little bit differently. We're going to open up with a verse from the Bible, because that's what we're being inspired to do. This is by Christ. And we are going to close out with a verse, but it's really going to be a synopsis of the verse. We're not going to read the whole thing. Another thing that we're going to talk about really quick here is we did our video last week and I upset some people. And so if we're going to talk about specific people from now on, we're going to talk to them first before we bring up the topic and actually say names and things like that. We're not here to upset people. We're not here to cause any internal issues in our own family or our own friendships. We just want to make sure that they're okay with us talking about the topic that we're talking about, and that they're okay with us talking about them. So that's what we're going to do moving forward from now on. You got anything?
Nope.
Okay, so the verse that we're opening with this week, and I'm going to read the verse, but I'm going to give you a little brief synopsis on the verse first. It's Ephesians 5, and it's 5 through 9. And it's Paul talking to the church of Ephesus, saying, don't hang out with immoral people, but immoral people is who Jesus sought out in order to bring them to God, right? Once you're accepting of God, we need to follow Paul's teaching here and never forget where we came from. And this is going to go along with how we started. Here's the actual verse, is 5 through 9, Ephesians 5. For this you can be sure, no immoral, impure, or greedy person, such a person is an idolater, has any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and of God. Let no one deceive you with empty words, for because of such things God's wrath comes on those who are disobedient. Therefore do not be partners with them. For you were once darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Live as children of the light, for the fruit of the light consists of all goodness, righteousness, and truth. Well, you want to start? Or you want me to start?
We met in 2004. Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, so we met in 2004. We met through some friends. Shannon's friend, Lindsay, and my best friend, Jeremy, at the time. And you were married, right?
I was.
And Shannon was married. And it was really weird because I was attracted to Shannon, but I knew she was married, so I didn't really want to say anything. But our friends knew. I didn't know. We'll put it that way. I didn't know that Shannon thought that I was cute.
At the time, we were not in a good place with my previous husband. And that kind of solidified that I wasn't with the right person and things weren't going right in my relationship.
So then in 2004, I left. I went to Iraq in August of 04. And then I came home in March of 05. And that was when Shannon and I actually started dating. I came home.
Hold on. I had left my husband.
Oh, yeah, that's kind of an important part.
Yes. I had left my husband and moved to 29 Palms to be with my friends, to live with them. And then a few months later is when he came home.
So we had spoke on the phone while I was still in Iraq, and just briefly, she was actually signing for a motorcycle for me that I had bought on eBay while I was in Iraq. And
should have known then that I'd be buying stuff while he was deployed on my own.
And it was funny because my best friend then at the time, Nathan, it was funny because he and I ended up buying the same kind of motorcycles. We both had the same kind of off-road trucks. And then we both started dating Shannon's when we got home from Iraq. It was really odd because he and I were living together. It was just really weird and how it all worked out. And oddly enough, him and his Shannon are married. But they didn't have to go through all the hullabaloo that we did because neither one of them was married when they met. At least I don't think so. So we started dating. Shannon was, yes, still married at that time, but she was legally separated. Not legally, really. The separation process had begun. Our first date was on April 6th, which this will kind of be a funny story. And we went on that first date. I took her to Palm Springs up the aerial tram and wined her and dined her because I just got back from Iraq, so I was a young man with a very fat pocket at the time. And I thought that was her birthday for like the next 5 years, when her birthday is really on March 30th.
Yeah. So now I have 2 birthdays.
Well, then I messed it up and I thought it was on March 31st for a while.
I have 3 birthdays.
It was like 3 birthdays. But like any typical woman, she thinks her birthday is the entire month of her birthday month.
Because it is.
Okay. So that was our first date. And I think it was good, and I think that's when we actually decided that we were dating. And I remember probably maybe 3 or 4 months into our relationship, I remember thinking to myself, like, I love this girl. And I knew that I wanted to be with her. And at this time, I don't think there was no faith involved in our relationship. We tried to go to church one time in the big city of 29 Palms, California, and
Just didn't go well.
we were just trying to find a place to go and worship. Because we knew there was a God.
Yeah.
We were both raised in Christian homes. My dad went to a Lutheran church. And it's funny now because my mom really started going like hardcore to church when I joined the Marine Corps. It was really weird because we never went to church like hardcore. We were those, what do they call them, Christians? Because we went on Christmas and Easter. That was when we went to church. And so, you know, when I went to a military school as a kid, we went 3 nights a week and every Sunday. So I was raised around God. So we both believed in God. You went to like summer camps and stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
So
Tech. Anybody in Tewksbury remember that?
So yeah, we knew that there was a God, and we knew that we should be following Him. What I didn't realize, because I was not that knowledgeable, is that we were not doing things the right way.
Oh yeah, I knew.
So I mean, we were living together.
Yeah.
She was still married. Yeah, things were not right. So that was kind of our first try at going to church together and trying to find God and put Him in our lives. And then after that, Shannon's mom came to visit, and it felt like the week that would never end because Shannon was obviously in a tough place, right? You know, I felt like this knight in shining armor coming to rescue her when it really wasn't me being, or her being rescued. It was probably me being rescued. Or the
both of us, yeah.
And how many days was your mom supposed to leave?
Oh, there was 3 times that she was supposed to get on an airplane, but every single time Dan would come home from work and be like, "Hey, you're still here." And she was being a mom, and she was not quite sure she wanted to leave me yet because I had just left my ex, and she knew that we were very much happy in where we wanted to be together. She wanted to make sure that I was okay with that. And I was going to be okay. So she needed some more observation time of Daniel.
If that's what you want to call it. So
she finally left.
She finally left. But I understood what it was about. I understood that she was concerned about her daughter and that she was just being a mom. And that's what moms do. So, so that was April of 2005, right? Yeah. And so we dated not on and off. We dated that summer. We went through the summer. We started coming down to San Diego and hanging out on the weekends and just spending a lot of time together. And I really knew that it was going to work. There was a night that I went with my friends, Nathan and Jeremy. We went to go pick up a motorcycle for my buddy Jeremy. And we're driving back, and it's freezing out. I forget what month it was, but it was freezing that night.
Freezing.
Yeah. Well, for Jeremy riding the motorcycle, it was cold. For Nathan and I in the car, it wasn't. But we kept having to stop so he could get in and warm up. So it must have been an unusually cold year that year or something. And I remember Shannon called me, and she was like, "Where are you?" And I said to her, "Well, we went down to go pick up this motorcycle." And she was like, "Oh." And at that moment, I was like, "Oh, I shouldn't be here with you knuckleheads. I should be there with her." And that was kind of when I knew, like, okay, this is we're in a serious relationship. I didn't know how she quite felt about me all the time, but I knew how I felt about her. So it was really kind of.
I knew
cool
on April
moment.
6th when we went up the mountain that I wanted to be with him.
But I didn't know that.
We needed more time.
Yeah. So then in September of 2005, I proposed to her. She was still married. And I
Divorce papers were all in. Somebody
Yeah.
just didn't go through.
Things weren't going as smoothly as we thought they were going to go. So I proposed. I got impatient. I remember driving down to Palm Springs, going to a jewelry store, buying a ring, some cheesy ring.
He told me he was going to see a chaplain. He said, yeah, I'm going to go talk to a chaplain because of the deployments and stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's good, okay. And then, no, he didn't. He went to go get a ring.
I couldn't tell her I was going to get a ring. I mean, that's just silly. So I remember we came down to San Diego that weekend, and what?
We stayed with my aunt, and Dan had this whole thing planned. We were going to do the horse and carriage ride through Seaport Village in San Diego. And my aunt was like, just stay here. Let's just have dinner. Let's just all hang out. And Dan's like, no, we're going. And I was like, dang, okay, fine. We're going out to eat.
I was pretty adamant about it because I had a whole speech worked up and everything, and the speech didn't work out very well.
No, because I was like, blah, 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 blah. Yes, I will.
So I proposed in San Diego, and we went back home. And I remember my friend Jeremy said to me, he goes, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. Because he knew that she was still married, and there were people that had concerns, and rightfully so. They're like, she's still married, man. And so it was kind of a waiting period that began. We ended up going back home to Ohio, where I'm from, and she met my family, my brother, my dad. We stayed with my dad and my stepmom, and everybody really liked her. She even worked at my dad's bar for one night that time, I think.
Yeah.
And that was from my dad's retirement. We were taking him out somewhere special. And so she met my mom. Well, my mom had already met you for my birthday that year, but
she was there when you got off the bus from Iraq. So before we even started dating, I met your mom.
Oh, see, I don't recall all of that.
Yeah.
And so we met the families. I had met her mom. I had met her sister before, but that was just through some casual, I think they were out there visiting or something. You guys came up to 29 Palms. And so I had one more big hurdle to overcome. And that was, well, no, I'm jumping ahead. So we came back from that trip, and then we moved in together, like officially we moved in together, and we moved to San Diego. I'd gotten orders to Miramar. And we got a little place in Claremont. We could barely afford it, and then eventually we couldn't afford it, but thanks to parental love, we afforded it. I don't know how old we were.
I don't know, but she loved us.
My mom loved us. She paid our rent for probably 6 months, and in San Diego, that's not cheap. But after we moved in together to San Diego, we were both working, and her dad finally came out to visit. And I'll tell you what, I was pretty intimidated. He was a Vietnam veteran, Marine, and I'm a Marine, dating his daughter, who, by the way, is still married. And so it was just, it was very awkward. It wasn't awkward, it was just, I knew what I was going to do. And I'd already kind of screwed up. I already kind of messed things up. I'd already proposed to her, and she had already said yes before I ever talked to her dad. And that's kind of how I was. I wanted to talk to her dad, and I wanted to make sure that I had her dad's blessing. If he had said no, I don't know what would have happened.
I don't know either.
And I don't even know if he knows this right now. I think he knows,
No,
doesn't he?
We talked to him about it, yeah.
Yeah, I think he knows. I talked to him after he's had a few beers, so.
Yeah, maybe it was a fleeting conversation.
But that was how it ended up happening. I was driving him to the airport, and I was like, "Hey, look, I want to marry your daughter." And
you were like at the airport.
Yeah, and he was like, "You waited till you brought me to the airport?" Like, yeah. So I need an answer, like real quick here, yes or no, before you get out of the car. And so he talked to me for a little bit, and he gave us his blessing. I proposed again.
I don't know, that would be a proposal. We went out to eat for Valentine's Day, and he's like, well, I don't need to stay spiritual again. Here's the ring.
Oh, yeah, because when her dad came to visit, she had to take the ring off.
Yeah.
So, and then that was in February
still
of '06, and we were still waiting, and it was still a waiting game. But finally, in August of '05, or no, '06, excuse me, the divorce was finalized, and we went to Las Vegas to get married. But
Divorce was
almost
final
didn't.
Friday, and then we left the next morning to go to Vegas. And, well, you know,
Debit cards, courthouses.
debit card got eaten in the ATM, and then we had to call his mom again in the middle of the night because we couldn't get a hotel. And then he was like, "Forget it, we're not getting married. Let's just try another week." And I said, "No."
So we called my mom because we both banked with the same bank at the same time,
Yeah.
and I had a joint account with my mother from when I was in high school still. And I was like, "Hey, look, I need you to transfer money from my account to your account and then to her account." Because we had the money, we just couldn't get to it. And so, mom being mom, she was like, "I'll just send you guys the money. Don't worry about all that other stuff." And it was to pay for the hotel room and to pay for the White Wedding Chapel in Las Vegas, or Little Wedding
Can't
Chapel,
remember.
or cannot remember. It was kind of a whirlwind.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we drove to Vegas on a Friday night, and we drove home on Sunday, and we were married. And that's how things kind of started for us. The first few years was kind of rocky, because that was August of '06. In January of '07, I was on a plane headed to a lovely country called Djibouti in Africa, and I was gone for... I wasn't on the plane in January,
went
but
to
I was
Lejeune
gone
to
for
train.
9 months. I went to go do some training for the deployment, and then I was gone for 9 months. And about 5 months into that, Shannon had our first lovely child, our bouncing baby Hayden. And so when I came home, I had a whole new family. Like, I got married, left, and come back, and I got a child and a wife. And
We also moved in the middle of that, so he literally came home.
I came
I
home.
sold 2 cars, got another one. It was like a new life for him.
Yeah, we had a new life. I had some new friends that I never knew thanks to a '76 Ford Bronco. And they, it was just very different. And then I came home in September of '07, and in January of '08 we moved, and I went to what we would call an advanced school, and it was essentially like I was deployed again for 9 months, because it was such an intense school with engineering and math and stuff like that for electrical engineering, that we still really never got a chance to connect as a married couple. And that just kept overflowing. And Shannon, being who Shannon is, she's a trooper. She is a Marine Corps wife, that's for sure. She's a trooper, and she stood by me through all that stuff. And eventually we got around to finding God through some more trials and tribulations that we'll talk about in a couple of more episodes. But we finally got to God while I was in Afghanistan in 2010. And we made a deal, and it was the wonkiest deal ever.
Yep.
And I said if she would work out...
I was complaining.
This is
but
when
I
I
just
was
don't
in
have
fit.
the motivation.
This is when I was fit and in shape and not round, which I know is a shape for some folks, but that's not...
Yeah, but I was complaining because I wanted to go to the gym. I just couldn't find the motivation. I was tired, and because I was going to school and working a full-time job, and then had Hayden. And so he said, "Well, how about this? I'll watch those DVDs you keep sending me," because I had started at our church. And he said, "I'll watch those DVDs you keep sending me if you go to the gym every day." I'm like, "Deal." So, and then it just kind of flowed right there.
And it went from there. I came home, and we were in the book of Genesis, and Chris Brown was teaching a lot, along with Larry Osborne. And every week they kind of left you sitting on the edge of your seat, and you wanted to go back the next week, because I didn't want to read it, because I wasn't going to interpret it that well. But Chris told a story, and it was awesome. So that's how we got into Jesus and back. That's not how we got into Jesus and God, but that's how we got back to Jesus Christ. And this is just the first episode. Not an episode, but this is the first episode. Okay, we're going to call it an episode in this little series of how we got together, because there's some more bumps in this road that we're going to talk about to talk about how we got to where we are right now, how we've gotten to this is real life, other than we want to help people and share stories with people.
And how we got it here, and we're still together. And we still kind of like each other.
It's
Still kind of love you. What?
14 years later.
We just had to count. What is it? No, it's not 14 years.
Total.
It's 6. Yeah. It's, yeah.
Somewhere in there.
We've been a while.
It's been a while.
It's been a
We've
while.
gotten married twice.
Yeah. I'm like, what?
We've gotten married
We renewed
twice.
our vows, yes, for our 10-year
So you guys will
anniversary.
hear about all that stuff, and then we'll get into some of more of those in-depth topics that we talked about last week. But you know, if your story is kind of similar to ours, and you want to share it, or if you're kind of in the middle of a story like that, and you just don't know, like, what should I be doing? What does the Bible say about, you know, premarital sex, premarital living together? And you want to know, put the comments below. We'll talk to you about it. I'm sure other folks will talk to you about it. And you're gonna have a far left opinion about it from folks that don't believe in Christ and God, and they don't follow God. And then you're gonna have people on the far right that are just extremists, and they're gonna tell you that you're gonna go to hell, and that's not the truth.
As long as you turn around.
As long as you turn yourself around,
That's
okay?
right, yeah.
And if you haven't found God yet, and you're still wondering about this, and you're like, oh my gosh, he's going to tell me I can't have sex before I'm married, sorry to tell you, yep. But you can, what's the word I'm looking for? You can ask for forgiveness and admit to all of that, and let God into your life, and let Him lead your heart. And that'll feel so much better than sex. And that's truly how Shannon and I feel. We love God first, and then we love each other, and then we love our children, and then we love our families. We put God ahead of everything, or at least we try to every day. That is the goal, is to put God before everything.
It's work.
And it is work. It's like a marriage. It's work. And this is not easy. We work at this. We're doing a study right now, and what's it called?
United in Marriage.
United in Marriage. I don't want to keep calling it a marriage study, but it's United in Marriage, and it's very challenging when we're 3 weeks into that. But it's a great study. It's bringing us closer together as a couple. Our communication is getting better. Our trust is getting better. Our respect for each other is getting better. Things that used to matter, that used to rotate around in the back of our brains, well, mine anyway, not so much anymore. So, like I said, if you are kind of in a similar situation, or you had a similar situation and you want to share it, put the comments down below. If you have any feedback on our video, please put the comments down below. And we're going to kind of close out with a brief synopsis, and I'll put this whole verse up at the end of the video here, because my editing skills are on point now. Not really. They're getting better though. But the last verse is Luke 5, and it's 29 through 31. And it's going to talk about Levi, the tax collector, and Jesus Christ. And I'm going to read what Jesus said in verse 31, but it'd be really cool if you went back and read the whole thing, 29 through 31. It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance. And this whole thing is he's hanging out with Levi, the tax collector. And if you don't know about that, Levi, the tax collector, was a Jewish man, but he worked for the Roman Empire, and he collected taxes from his fellow Jews as the Empire of Rome hovered over Israel. And so tax collectors were looked that people didn't look upon them highly. And then Jesus Christ goes and has an awesome dinner with him. People are like, what in the world are you doing, man? Like, well, you believe in God. You found Christ. I don't need to hang out with you. I need to hang out with these other people that don't believe in Jesus Christ, me, or Jesus Christ, I'm saying that is him, and who don't believe in God. And that's what that whole thing is about. But go back and read from 29 to 31, and it'll make a little bit more sense. You got anything else?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, until next time, folks, this is D Squared out.